Facebook, YouTube. Woohoo. All right. Notice and check to see if we're online. We are definitely online. Notice and check to see if we're online. Wow. I'm going to try fooling around with the volume on this thing. We are definitely online. Give me a second. Wow. Volume is low. Hare Krishna. Volume is low. Let me turn up the volume. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. That's good. Okay. It's a good level. That's good. Okay, everybody, we are getting started. And I think we're ready to roll. First, we're going to chant, as we normally do. Give me a second. Wait a second. This thing has to focus, 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 focus. Hold on. There we go. Back to normal. Run, hey, Jaya, Jaya, Madhya, hey. Run, hey, Jaya, Jaya, Madhya, hey. Taruni mandala maite, Gokula taruni mandala maite. Run, hey, Jaya, Jaya, Madhava, Namadarati, Vardanaveshe. Hari niskuta vrenda vikvineshe. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Vishavanutani Navashashileke Nanita Saki Guna Ramita Vishage. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Karuna Gurumai Karuna Bharite Shanaka Sanatana Marita Jayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Taruni Mandala Mahine Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Haribo Jai Gaur Haribo Haribo Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also Teta Satishi Shimad His Divine Grace Sabaya Charanara Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrind Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Giradha Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturanam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lalasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol All glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvati Pacharane Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarane. So if any of you are wondering where we are at Govardhan right now. Right in front of Govardhan Hill, a sacred hill that Krishna lifted. So it's amazing. We just flew there yesterday. Okay. And we'll fly back to America tomorrow. So anyway, so it's kind of interesting. So anyway, so where do we go from here? So we're continuing with our reading of the 20th chapter of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. And we're almost finished with the 20th chapter. Let's see if we finish it today. And we're talking about the context of the conversation in the 20th chapter is Sanatana Goswami getting instruction from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we've been talking about the avatars, Shaktivesha avatars. Avatars means, for those of you who don't know what avatar means, it means to cross down. Avatara means to cross down. And that doesn't mean that we cross down from the spiritual world, so we are avatars. That's not what it means. It means someone who voluntarily crosses down. And tirtha is like tirthara, which means a crossing place, by which one can actually, let us say, the Star Wars type of Star Trek, beam you up to the spiritual world. Like if any of you saw that series Star Trek, not Star Wars, they have beaming people in, beaming people out. So beam me up. One of the favorite famous expressions on that series was "Beam me up, Scotty." So if any of you have seen that, so we can say, "Beam me up, Krishna, to the spiritual world." Teleportation. So you can be teleported. Your soul can be teleported, not your body. So a tirtha is a place where you can teleport to the spiritual realm. Wow. It's like another example of a tirtha, or another way of explaining it, metaphorical explanation, is like an embassy. If you have an embassy of a particular country, let's say you have the Russian embassy that's in Washington, D.C. So if you go into the Russian embassy in Washington, D.C., the laws of America don't apply there anymore. The laws of Russia apply within the embassy until you step out of the door. That's why sometimes people go into an embassy when they're actually taking shelter from the local government, whatever country they're in at that particular juncture. So in the same way, a tirtha is an embassy of the spiritual world. So you're actually in the spiritual world. If you go to Vrindavan, if you go to Govardhan, which we are at right now, then you're actually in the spiritual world. So you may think, I've been there, and I don't remember being in the spiritual world. Well, I got news for you. That's your consciousness, because you are wherever your consciousness is. That's a very important point. You are not necessarily where your body is. You are where your mind is, your consciousness is. So if you put your body in the tirtha and your consciousness is not there, you are not there. You are somewhere else. And if you put your mind in the spiritual realm, even while you're here in America, Australia, many of you are in Australia or Fiji. I don't know if anyone's there. Oh yeah, from Fiji, even though they had a cyclone there. Goku Mandu is there. So if you put your mind in the spiritual realm, then that's where you are, in the spiritual realm. You are not in the material realm. So anyway, so the word avatar means to cross down. So when it comes down from the spiritual realm into the material realm. Okay, so with that in mind, let us continue reading the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Ready? Om Ganata Miranda Shalagananjana Shalakaya Chakshud and Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigana Maha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. And so here we go. We are going to share the screen. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. All right. We are on text 387, the 20th chapter of the Madhya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Okay. Ready? Let's go. Jyotish Chakre Suryayena Pure Ratri Dine Sapta Dvipambudi Langi Pure Krame Krame. The sun moves across the zodiac day and night and crosses the oceans between the 7 islands one after the other. Ratri Dine Haya Shastidana Parimana Tina Sahasra Chaya Shatapala Taramana. According to the Vedic astronomical calculations, the rotation of the sun consists of 60 dandas. These are time sequences. and is divided into 3,600 palas. Wow. Time sequences again. This is definitely not primitive. It's actually, there have been calendars and clocks in rocks and whatever they make it in that have been discovered that come from thousands and thousands of years ago in India. So they actually knew how to tell time without the modern clocks that you have today. Suryodaya haite Shastri pala kramo daya Sekadanda hasta dande raharahaya. The sun rises in steps consisting of 60 palas. These are divisions of time again. 60 palas equal one danda, another division of time, and 8 dandas comprise one prahara. Eka dui tinak chari prahare ashtahaya chari prahara ratri gele punasuyodaya. The day and night are divided into 8 praharas, 4 belonging to the day and 4 belonging to the night. And after 8 praharas, the sun rises again. That's right, 24 hours. Ache Krishnela Lila Mandala Choda Manvantare Ramananda Mandala Vyapi Krame Krame Pire. Just as there is an orbit of the sun, there's an orbit of Krishna's pastimes, which are manifested one after the other. During the lifetime of 14 Manus, this orbit expands throughout the universe and gradually returns. Thus, Krishna moves with his pastimes through all the universes, one after another. What this is saying is basically that on a regular schedule, Krishna appears. How about that? Just like on a regular schedule, the sun rises every morning. On a regular schedule, the sun sets. Of course, obviously, it's different according to the time of the year. The day becomes shorter or longer. Now the days are starting to become longer after December 23rd. They start to get longer in the northern hemisphere and shorter in the southern hemisphere, which many of you are at right now. So anyway, but it's on a regular schedule. You can predict these things. The scientists can predict these things. The scientists can say when there was an eclipse thousands of years ago. They can say when there's an eclipse thousands of years from now. So in the same way, because things are cyclic. Cyclic means in cycles, things tend to repeat. In the Western perception or conception of things, everything is linear. For example, in your religious institutions in the West, you have a beginning, Genesis. That's interesting, Genesis. We can etymologically analyze that word, but we're not going to do it. But if you have Genesis, which is the beginning, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And that was the first day. And of course, in the Bible, you have God working for 6 days. Then the 7th day, he gets a little pooped. That means tired in English. And then he has to rest. So everybody has to rest on the 7th day because God rested on the 7th day. I don't know about the logic in that. If God rested on the 7th day, why do you have to rest on the 7th day? Doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, okay. So in the Western world, you have the beginning, and then, according to people in the Western religions, then you have a day of judgment where everything ends. No way, Jose. Things don't end. It's just a new beginning. Just like you have winter, spring, summer, fall, and then you have winter. Spring, summer, fall. In the same way, things happen in the universal sphere like that. You have a manifestation, which sometimes we call creation, but actually to be more precise, it's a manifestation. Then you have a maintenance period, and then gradual dissolution or destruction. Then you have another manifestation, and it cycles. And the same thing with Krishna's pastimes. Krishna has a regular cycle of his pastimes. Once in the day of Lord Brahma, Krishna comes down to the earth planet. Lord Caitanya comes down to the earth planet. And they perform their pastimes as the Yuga avatars. And other yugas, when it's not directly Krishna, it's another avatar who appears. And Krishna has a million, billions, quadrillions, unlimited numbers of avatars. Okay, in other words, it goes in cycles. That's the point. It's not just that Krishna came 5,000 years ago and that's it. Or it's not that you have one life and that's it. And after that, forget it. You blew it in that lifetime and tough on you. Sahaya Shata Vatsara Krishnara Prakata Pakasha Tahayache Rajapure Karila Vilasa. Krishna remains within a universe for 125 years and he enjoys his pastimes both in Vrindavan and Dwarka. Also Mathura. Also, where else? Kurukshetra. But primarily Vrindavan and Dwarka. Primarily. You have the most time in Vrindavan and Dwarka. And for 125 years, but he's always young. It's always looks like 16 years old. That's the best time. After that, it's all downhill. Yep. After 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, then woo. Then old age sets in. We have one disciple here who's like 11 or 12, and he has gray hair already. A little boy, and he's actually quite intelligent. He has the intelligence of a 35-year-old, but he has gray hair already. Amazing. Alata Chakra Praya, say Lila Chakra Pure, Savalila Sava Brahmande, Krame Udaya Kare. The cycle of his pastimes turns like a wheel of fire. Thus Krishna exhibits his pastimes one after another in every universe. So, in other words, the cycle is not just in this universe, it's in every universe, and there's unlimited universes, the multiverse theory. Not theory, but fact. And Krishna appears in a regular cycle, and his other incarnations appear in a regular cycle there too. Krishna has unlimited styles and varieties of incarnations in different species of life. He's really cool. Janma Palya Pagunda Kaishora Pakasha Putana Vadadi Kari Moshalanta Vilasa. Krishna's pastimes, appearance, childhood, boyhood, and youth, are all manifested beginning with the killing of Putana and extending to the end of the Mosha Lila. That means the time when Krishna leaves this world. The annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. All these pastimes are rotating in every universe. And someone asked the question yesterday whether in every universe it's the same person who plays Putana. No. That would be eternal Putana. Not really. It's different, and there's variety too. It's not just like, oh my God, been there, seen it, done it. It's not like that. There's unlimited variety. You know, Krishna does things differently each time in different varieties. It's not just like completely like a routine spool. Kona Brahmande Kona Lilara Hayash Asthana Tate Lila Nichikahi Agama Purana. Since all Krishna's pastimes are taking place continuously, at every moment some pastime is existing in one universe or another. Consequently, these pastimes are called eternal by the Vedas and Puranas. So Krishna never stops the pastimes. At least also in the material world, and what to speak of the spiritual world. Goloka, because in the spiritual world there's pastimes. They manifest a little bit differently. I mean, obviously there's no killing in the spiritual world. There's no demoniac entities in the spiritual world. It's different. Different in some respects. In some respects it's the same. Goloka Gokula Dharma Vibhu Krishna Sama Krishna Chaya Brahmanda Gane Dahara Songkrama. The spiritual abode known as Goloka, which is a pasturing land for Surabhi cows, is as powerful and opulent as Krishna. By the will of Krishna, the original Goloka and Gokula Dhammas are manifested with him in all the universes. So that's what you see behind me in my picture. That's the original Goloka being manifest on Earth planet. And you have to have eyes to see. If you don't have eyes to see, it'll appear like a mundane place because there is a veneer, which is a thin covering. Naham Prakasha Sarvasha Yogamaya Samabhata. Because if you happen to be a wascal, I know it's rascal, but if you happen to be a wascal, then there is this illusory covering that covers your eyes so you don't see things in the right way. It's like rose-colored glasses. But what's manifest on this earth planet with Vrindavan is the spiritual world. And some of you will get the opportunity to visit Vrindavan or Govardhan in this lifetime. You can come when I'm there, which will be hopefully soon. Ataiva Galokastane Nitya Vihara Brahmandagane Krame Prakatya Tahara. The eternal pastimes of Krishna are continuously taking place in the original Goloka Vrindavan plant. That's in the spiritual world. These same pastimes are gradually manifested within the material world, and each and every Brahmanda, each and every universe, there's a place where Krishna does his stuff. So, in the purport, Prabhupada explains that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur elucidates this complicated explanation of Krishna's pastimes. Krishna's pastimes are always present in the material world in one of the many universes. These pastimes appear in the universes one after the other, just as the sun moves across the sky and measures the time. Krishna's appearance may be manifested in this universe at one moment, and immediately after his birth, this pastime is manifested in the next universe. After his killing of Putana is manifested in this universe, it is next manifested in another universe. Thus, all the pastimes of Krishna are eternally existing both in the original Goloka Vrindavan planet, that's a spiritual world, and in the material universes. The 125 years calculated in our solar system to be Krishna's lifetime equal 1 moment for Krishna. 1 moment, these pastimes are manifested in one universe, and the next moment they are manifested in the next universe. There are unlimited universes, and after Krishna's pastimes are manifested 1 moment after the other in all of them. This rotation is explained through the example of the suns moving across the sky, which is the same example I just gave. Krishna appears and disappears during the day. Oh, sorry, I skipped a line. In innumerable universes, just as the sun appears and disappears during the day. Although the sun appears to rise and set, it is continuously shining somewhere on the earth. Similarly, although Krishna's pastimes seem to appear and disappear, they are continuously existing in one Brahmanda universe or another. Thus, all of Krishna's Lilas, his play pastimes, are present simultaneously throughout the innumerable universes. By our limited senses, we cannot appreciate this. Therefore, Krishna's eternal pastimes are very difficult for us to understand. One should try to understand how they are taking place by understanding the example of the sun. Although the Lord is appearing constantly in the material universes, His pastimes are eternally present in the original Goloka Vrindavan. Of course, Goloka Vrindavan is not part of this material world. It cannot even be seen from this material world. Therefore, these pastimes are called Nitya Lila. Lila means pastimes, Nitya means eternal, eternally present pastimes. Because we cannot see what is going on in other universes, it is a little difficult for us to understand how Krishna is eternally manifesting his pastimes. There are 14 manus, these are divisions in each day, one day of Brahma, and this time calculation is also taking place in other universes. Krishna's pastimes are manifested before 14 manus expire, die. Although it is a little difficult to understand the eternal pastimes of Krishna in this way, we must accept the verdict of the Vedic literatures. There are two types of devotees: the sadhaka, who is preparing for perfection, and the siddha. Because sadha, or sadhaka, is someone who does sadhana. That means he practices devotion. And by practicing, eventually, he becomes spontaneous. And when he becomes spontaneous, he practices more, even spontaneously. And then he becomes perfect, and then he's called siddha. Siddha is a perfect devotee. And Prabhupada said, who's already perfect. As far as those who are already perfect are concerned, Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Chatura Deham Purna Janma Naiti Mam Eti Sarjana. After giving up this material body, such a devotee comes to me. In other words, Chatura Deham, just to be more precise, when he chucks away his deham, or his dehas, to be more precise, Sanskrit-wise, when he throws away his body, punar, again, purna means again, janma means birth, naiti mam, naiti, so just take the word naiti, punar janma naiti, birth, again birth, no. But then, mameti, they go to Krishna, Arjuna. I am saying this, Arjuna. After leaving the material body, the perfect devotee takes birth from the womb of a gopi on a planet where Krishna's pastimes are going on. This may be in this universe or in another universe. So what does that mean? That means if you become perfect in this lifetime, you don't usually go back to the spiritual world, even though you're perfect. But you go to where Krishna's pastimes are taking place in whatever universe, whatever planet, and according to your particular taste in relationship to Krishna or his various expansions, you go there. And you have some association, and this way you get trained up before you're ready to just like pop into the spiritual world. This statement is found in the Ujjvala Nilamani, which is commented on by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakura. When a devotee becomes perfect, he is transferred to a universe where Krishna's pastimes are taking place. So in other words, let's say if you're a devotee of Lord Ram, primarily, then you're transferred to wherever Ayodhya, the pastimes of Ayodhya are taking place, in whatever universe. As you're a devotee of Krishna, if you're a devotee of the tortoise incarnation, you're a devotee of various incarnations, unlimited incarnations. Krishna's eternal associates go wherever Krishna manifests his pastimes. That's another category. There are some devotees who are perfect, who keep taking birth in the material world to actually assist Krishna's pastimes. For example, let us take the primary gopis, who are devotees, but they're a different category, of course, Shakti Tattva, but even Narada Muni and others who happen to be jiva souls, they actually follow Krishna, or what to speak of, Arjuna. For example, Arjuna was the Nara and the Narayan Rishi's pastimes, and Krishna was Narayan. So Arjuna is continually going with Krishna everywhere in the material world. So some devotees have that particular opulence. And some devotees follow their Guru Maharaj. Just like as I pray to be with Prabhupada life after life, and to serve Prabhupada life after life. So there's different manifestations or destinations of different devotees according to their even spiritual desires. You know, there's different forms of the Lord, there's different service you do to different forms of the Lord, and there's eternal associates who always remain with Krishna, always remain with Lord Caitanya, like Shivas Thakur, who was Narada Muni. As stated before, first the father and mother of Krishna appear, then the other associates. So when Krishna appears in this world, generally he appears with a father and mother. I mean, there are some exceptions, such as when the Purusha avatars appear. I mean, there's no indication of father or mother there. Or when Lord Boar comes out of Lord Rama's nostril, there's no indication of mommy for Lord Boar. Quitting his material body, the perfect devotee also goes to associate with Krishna and his other associates. So perfection may manifest itself in different ways according to a devotee's desire, ras, taste. Anyway, but wherever a devotee goes, that's where he wants to go, and it is eternamente. Braje Krishna Sarvaishvarya Prakashe Purnatama Puridvaye Paravyame Purnatara Purna. Krishna is complete in the spiritual sky, Vaikuntha. He is more complete in Mathura and in Dwarka, and he's most complete in Vrindavana, Braj, due to his manifesting all of his opulence. He's the same person, but his qualities are most exhibited, or to the highest degree, or a complete degree, in Vrindavan. Whereas in other places, there is some, I don't want to use the word covering, but non-manifestation of some of his qualities, like playing a flute. Krishna does not play a flute outside of Vrindavan, or Govardhan, or the whole, when we use the word Vrindavan, we're talking about the whole Braja area. Braja means the area that's generally called Vrindavan, with the different forests there, Vrindavan, or we can mention Vrindavan as one of the various forests, or it could refer to the whole area. This is confirmed in the following three verses from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.1, 2.2.1, 2.2.2.3. Hari Purnatama Purna Tara Purna Iti Vrida Trida Shreshta Madhya Divir Shabdar Nachaya Paripatyate. This is stated in the dramatic literatures as perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. Thus Krishna manifests himself in three ways: perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. So you may say, explain that to me. How is something or someone more perfect than just perfect? Perfect usually means perfect. How can it be more perfect? How can it become most perfect? Superlative. Well, because, let's say, you know someone, I have a perfect understanding of a particular individual. But as I get to know him or her better, then my understanding, even though it was perfect before, it has more details and more intimacy and more revealing the mind. So there was no imperfection before, but more perfect when I get closer. And when I'm the most close person to them, that person reveals their mind, the person trusts me completely, then that's the most perfect relationship. Let's take a relationship. Okay. You can have a relationship with someone, perfect relationship. I don't know anyone who has a perfect relationship. Forget about that example. But anyway, just give the example. Someone has a perfect relationship. Okay. Okay, let's use my mother. I have a perfect, or had a perfect relationship with my mother. But if she would do what I wanted, it would be more perfect. And if she did everything I wanted, it would be most perfect. It's perfect in every regard. Prakashita kila guna smita purnatamo buddhaye asarva vyanjaka purna tarapurna upadarshakaha. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not manifest all his transcendental qualities, he is called complete. In other words, is not manifesting all his qualities, just some of them, or many of them. When all the qualities are manifested but not fully, he is called more complete. But when he manifests all his qualities in fullness, he is called most complete. This is the version of all learned scholars in the devotional science. In other words, to reiterate, when he has manifest all his qualities, it's still complete. But when he manifests all his qualities, most complete. When he manifests, more complete, sorry. When he manifests all his qualities to the highest degree, then he's most complete. Krishnasya purnatam mata vakta bud gokulantare purnata purnatarata dvaraka mathuradishu. The most complete qualities of Krishna are manifested within Vrindavan, as I said before. That's the only place where he plays his flute, has very intimate devotees, unexcelled beauty like that, and the pastimes are simply amazing. And his complete and more complete qualities are manifested in Dwarka and Mathura. Hey Krishna Bhaje Purnatama Bhagavan Arasava Swarupa Purnatara Purna Nama. Lord Krishna is the most complete Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan. That's why I want to go to Vrindavan. I don't want to go anywhere else. Elsewhere, all his expansions are either complete or more complete. So in other words, Krishna in Vrindavan manifests all of his qualities. Of course, you are not unlimited, so you cannot perceive all of his qualities, but let us say he manifests himself much more intimately than anywhere else. And so by doing that, you see more of him, and you can develop more of an intimate relationship with Krishna in Vrindavan. That's where we should want to go, to Govardhan. Sangshepe kahilun Krishnara Swarupa Vichara Ananda Kahite Nade Ihara Vistara. Thus I have briefly described Krishna's manifestation of transcendental forms. This subject matter is so large that even Lord Ananta cannot describe it fully, because Ananta has unlimited heads. Ananta Swarupa Krishnara Nahiha Nahika Ganana Shaka Chandra Nyaye Karidigdarashana. In this way, Krishna's transcendental forms are expanded unlimitedly. No one can count them. Whatever I have explained is simply a little glimpse. It is like showing the moon through the branches of the tree, so it's unlimited. Iha Yeshune Pare Se Vagyavan Krishnara Sarupa Tattera Haya Kichugan. Whoever hears or recites these descriptions of the expansions of Krishna's body is certainly a very fortunate man. Although this is very difficult to understand, one can nonetheless acquire some knowledge about the different features of Krishna's body. So anybody who's listened to this is extremely fortunate. They are blessed, no matter who you are. So looks like we are going to end the chapter now. Oh, amazing. This is a long chapter. So after we end this chapter, we're going to go immediately to the questions. So we won't begin the next chapter till tomorrow, since we're just about finished with the time to allow you to ask questions. So we'll have a little more time. And if anyone has more questions about my mother passing away or anything like that, they can take this time if they don't have questions about tonight's class. All right. So this is the traditional verse spoken at the end of the chapter. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Padayara Asha Caitanya Caritamrta Kali Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, following in their footsteps. So thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Caitanya Caritamrta Madhya Lila 20th chapter, describing how Sanatana Goswami met the Lord at Varanasi and received knowledge of the absolute truth. So this is very interesting. In this chapter, there's a description of the different avatars, the description of the soul. I mean, so many different what we call tattvas, or ultimate spiritual truths, and even material truths are described in this particular chapter. So, important chapter. Next chapter, which will start tomorrow, is the opulence and sweetness of Lord Sri Krishna. What an amazing chapter this next chapter is. Okay, so we will stop sharing and allow you to ask questions. Hold on a second. Oh, we got a question ready before I unmute you. Hold on. 1 second. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada says his temples are like Vaikuntha. Does that mean Krishna doesn't manifest his full whoops. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. Full potency in temple, although yes, worship is done in the mood of Vaikuntha. No. Vaikuntha is a generic term, and it's actually a negative term. It's defining something with a negative. Negative not in the sense that it's bad, but it's negative in the sense it defines something as that which it is not, if you understand. For example, I say North Carolina is not New York. You're not in New York. Okay. So, the word Vaikuntha is a generic term that refers to all the spiritual worlds or the consciousness of a pure devotee. Because the word Vaikuntha means Vaikuntha, without anxiety. So that's what Prabhupada meant. In other words, generic term dealing with what the spiritual world or spiritual consciousness is not. It's a place where there is no anxiety, okay? So Prabhupada's terminology for the temples does not indicate that there is, let us say, Vaikuntha worship going on rather than Vrindavan or Goloka Vrindavan worship. However, Srila Prabhupada said the mood that we approach Krishna in the beginning is a mood of awe and reverence until you actually become advanced enough to go up to Krishna and give him a hug. And not many of you are that advanced. Not many of us are that advanced. Next question from Danardar Das. Actually, all right. Danardar, could you explain about perfect devotee and how to come to that platform? Wow. That's a big explanation. Perfect devotee means the only desire is out of love is to serve and please Krishna and Radharani. That's a pure devotee. No other desire, and you don't have to worry about getting rid of your desires because if you simply love Krishna, the other ones will just like fade away or be burnt away. It's like a blazing fire. In a blazing fire, everything's burnt to ashes. So you can't turn anything to ashes by just desiring to turn something to ashes. You got to have a fire. So the fire, perfect fire, is Krishna consciousness. Okay, now we got a question from Shamalini. Okay, Shamalini, Haribol. You got to unmute yourself. If you have a question, you raise your hand. You got to unmute. You're muted. I cannot unmute you. There's a little mute thing there. Oh, actually, maybe I didn't. I didn't give people permission to unmute. That's right.
That's what I was.
I'm
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
So,
Please
how are you
accept me.
feeling? Do you have COVID or?
No problem. No, Maharaj. We tested it and it is negative.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So you're ready for initiation then?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, good.
Yeah. My small question for today is that, Maharaj, you on the yesterday's Memorial Day, your mother's Memorial Day, you said that all the relatives of the devotee gets liberated once they leave the body. That means they get an opportunity to become the devotees in their next life. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, they will get the opportunity to have the association of a pure devotee in the next life. And but it's still they have to desire to become devotees too. You can't just like change someone just because they're your parents. You can't change them. They're still individual. They still have their individual, let's say, free will. Oh, I think you muted yourself again, or I didn't mute you. Wait a second. I think I just got to give everybody permission to unmute. Hold on a second. I didn't do that in my enthusiasm. Give me 1 second. Right. Oh, I see. I just. Hold on a second. Close. Takes 1 second of this. Participants. Okay. I did forget to allow everybody to mute. That is my mistake. Whoops. Okay, you're allowed to unmute yourself.
Yes, Maharaj. So my question is that in general, when we try to preach, or we can, especially in the family members, our parents or siblings, when we try to say about Krishna consciousness, they are not ready to accept it. So in that regard, is it better to focus more on our devotional activities or worry more about our relatives that they are not interested in the Krishna consciousness? Because if we become perfect, automatically they are benefited. Before we become perfect, I feel that we are wasting our valuable time in convincing them who are not interested. Can you guide on that?
It's a good question. Well, if they're not interested, then basically just give them some prasadam. I wouldn't spend time. I mean, one mistake I made when I first took up Krishna consciousness is that I wasted a lot of time and made my relatives very angry because I mean one thing I didn't mention in the class about my mother is that she was not a vegetarian, So one time she was speaking to me, and she was explaining what she had eaten that night, and it happened to be morgi. And I'm not going to translate that for those of you who don't speak Hindi. That's chicken. So one night, it happened to be one day, it was chicken. So I thought, I'm just going to preach to her. So I just said, Mother, you're like a cannibal. And uh, she got really angry. So I didn't do that anymore. So I just basically gave her prasadam, invited her to Rath Yatra, and that's how she became favorable. And sometimes the best way to make relatives favorable is to act in a quote normal way with them. Don't act weird. Just like in the case of Raghunath Das Goswami, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised him to act like an ordinary gentleman. Or he said, Lord Chaitanya gave the example as act like a lady who has a paramour. In other words, not to arouse suspicion. So usually, and also it's an offense to preach the glories of the Lord to those who are faithless. So basically, my whole philosophy is you understand where philosophically and consciousness wise a person is at, and you give them as much Krishna consciousness as they can take. And if they're not able to take any, that's fine too. You just give them prasadam and just be kind to them. And ultimately they'll respect. But if someone is able to take, even if you are not so Krishna conscious, you can still benefit them by giving them association with a pure devotee. Repeating Prabhupada's words, that's association with Prabhupada. And also giving them a book, that's association with Prabhupada. Even a very simple book, even if it's something like my little book, You're Not the Body, still you're giving them association if they're able to take it. If they're not and they're going to commit offenses, it's better you just keep quiet and don't say anything and just act nicely with them and pray for them. All right, that's a
Okay,
good
Maharaj.
question.
And if no one has
Yeah.
any question, I have one more.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah, what is the difference between Goloka and Gokula, Maharaj?
uh, well, Goloka is the spiritual world. Gokula is Krishna's manifestation of Goloka in this world. I mean, sometimes the word Goloka or
Okay.
Gokul can refer to part of Krishna Loka in the spiritual world. That many times the nomenclature depends upon the context in which you find a word. But generally, when we use the word Gokul, it refers to the Gokul on this earth planet, Braj, Braj, Lila, on this earth planet. And so the difference is that there's no demons in the spiritual world. The difference is that everybody in the spiritual world has already achieved perfection, whereas Krishna's pastimes in the material world are sometimes you'll find devotees who are just coming to the perfect stage in the material world. And there's different manifestations of Krishna's ages in the material world. In the Gokul, you'll find there's a baby Krishna, and Krishna grows up and goes through the various stages, Komara, etc., like that, Kaishora, etc. But in the spiritual world, Krishna remains always 16 years of age. There's none of the baby pastimes of Krishna. Although Yashoda Mai in the spiritual world is always remembering the baby pastimes of Krishna, although they don't occur there. Krishna's always 16, always just ready for the interactions with the gopis in the spiritual world. So there's some minor differences or major differences, as you may say, between the spiritual world and material world. All right?
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So we'll see you Sunday. So let's see more questions. Ratna Leka asks a question. So my humble ways in one sense. Mayapur is not different
Hare Krishna.
from Dava. No, I got a question here in the chat window. Wait a second, Rishikesh. Sounds like your voice. Hold on. So how can we understand if Krishna is fully manifest? Krishna manifests a different aspect of his pastimes in Mayapur. Uh, okay. Rudra and Shambhu, they're different manifestations of Lord Shiva. The Rudra incarnation is a manifestation uh, referring to when Lord Shiva was destroying the universe, and Shambhu is when it has more to do with the implantation of the living entities within the material energy. Uh, that is, Lord Shiva is the father. Rudra basically it comes from Rodra, which means anger, which is basically him dealing with the mode of ignorance and destroying the material universe. So, one more question from Rishikesh, if I heard your voice properly.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. My obeisance, Gurudev. Uh, well, I have questions about those children who are born in devotees' family and somehow they don't not interested in taking Krishna consciousness. Are they liberated soul or what kind of soul they are? I mean, they have what chance
Well,
to?
they have a chance for liberation. Uh, they're given the opportunity, and they have some good samskaras, but they decided, and they've made some advancement, and then Krishna will ultimately bring them back.
Okay.
But they have to decide to come back. Everybody has free will. Like sometimes you
Uh,
see devotees, someone who's been serving Krishna for so many years, and then they leave. They
uh,
fall into they fall into illusion. I mean, that happens. Maya is very strong. Maya is very, very strong. So, but ultimately, Krishna says, "Konteha pratijanihi name bhakta pranashati." You should declare it boldly. My devotee will never perish. Okay, so that we don't perish, we have to
thank you, Gurudev.
end right now. Thank you very much. You are all kind to attend this class. All glorious to His divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, Srila